Hello and welcome to Bonus Action Dash. My name is Jaren and this is Sunday D&D Prep, a stream where I do an actual prep session for my Sunday night D&D game. I'm running the 5th edition adventure, Rime of the Frostmaiden, and we are in the final chapter. The players, the Sunseekers, are exploring Ithrin, and they have but 2 more pieces to go in obtaining all 8 pieces of the Arcane Octad before they enter into the Spire of Larthus. Now, like every other week, this session of D&D prep is mostly just the culmination of my thoughts throughout the week as I have considered my game and considered what we're going to do next. I've gone ahead and take some notes so as I don't have to sit here and just type into the keyboard for the entire time. But it is meant to show what goes into a session. These are the actual notes that I'm going to use for tonight's game, which I have in about 2 hours. So, all that said, let's go ahead and jump in to the prep. I'm using Notion for my notes, for my note-taking, and I'm roughly using a version of the Lazy Dungeon Master's outline for prepping sessions. This is what I've been using for the entirety of the campaign, and it's worked really well. I used, I think, a good chunk of this for when I ran the Storm King's Thunder. That was the first adventure that I ran, and it seems to work pretty well. So let's get into the note-taking here. So review of last session. The party had made their way to, I think what we were doing last time is they were deciding where they wanted to go next. They had just found out that Scriven Scry held the spellbook of Diviner Apius in the Tower of Divination, and so they know that's kind of coming, but they were a little bit worn out from the fight. They were kind of at their end, running out of spells, kind of low on HP, and thought maybe they can go, accomplish some other towers and then take a rest and go and do all this stuff. So they decided to kind of make their way back across the map and start exploring some final towers to see what they could kind of clean up and do on this last day, the day of Chess 30, the last day of the month of chess, and incidentally the full moon. So interesting stuff there because we've got a cleric that worships the full moon and worships the moon goddess Saloon. So they decided to make their way back across to Ithrin. Or rather, where did we end up? I think we ended up, we ended in the Tower of Divination. They made their way back across to finish up. There were 2 towers that they still needed to do on this side of the map, that being the Tower of Transmutation and Evocation. And originally my plan was to have Dazan had kind of already cleared those out. And that way, as I mentioned last time, I wanted to make sure that we keep the momentum and not spend a lot of time doing these towers that kind of feel repetitive after we've done 5 or 6 of them. But the party started exploring. I didn't really have the heart to stop them. I was trying to give the clues that, hey, this tower is really dark, and unlike the other tower, there's no lights inside. There's evidence of struggle and all this stuff. And they kept on pushing and pursuing. And I thought, well, there's at least enough interesting things in here that I could probably cobble together and do a quick refresh while they're making their way and trying to figure out how to get into this tower. Let me just pull up the PDF really quick and scan it and remind myself of what's in here. And so that's kind of what we did. I had them go through a majority of the pieces. They were able to, let me just pull up this map here. This was the Tower of Transmutation. They were able to go through here and notice, some stuff that was in here, some mannequins kind of sprawled out on the floor. They made their way into the main chamber here and saw a dead skeletal body with mage robes and whatnot. They saw the stone statue, a beautiful elven statue in front of this weird looking device. And they were able to piece together that this device required certain things. They searched the body for some keys and were able to activate the device. Some spell was cast to reverse the stone effect that was on this drow, this elven creature, who they realized happened to be the High Transmuter. Transmuter Metaltra is her name. And through conversation, after saving her, she decided to help the party out. And that's how they kind of solved this. It's not a very difficult riddle that's in this tower. That's kind of why I was initially wanting to skip it, also because it's not the most interesting tower in the world. But they basically had to raise up this platform at the bottom of the tower, up into the top level, about 80 feet up, and activate a pressure plate. That would open up this center area here where there was a treasure, a bunch of gold, some different potions and stuff, and a tablet that had the piece of the arcane octet, chiseled on it. And Metaltra kind of had to help out and deactivate the reverse gravity effect that was in place. And it was sort of an interesting team effort to make this all happen. And then they got the piece of the puzzle and left, but not before Metaltra created a Magen for herself as protection. And just like some other people here in Ithran, they sent her in the direction of the Akhenathi tribe and Secret Ukai. So maybe, just maybe, once the party gets out of Ithran, maybe they'll rendezvous back there and find a couple of the people that they rescued in Ithran hanging out, since they did make a good name for themselves with that tribe. From there, the party continued exploring. There was a brief encounter with Dazan around the spire again as they started to enter into the remaining tower, that of the one of evocation. And Dazan sort of noticed them and was mocking him like, hey, this would be entertaining watching you guys trace in my steps and, just do stuff that I have already done. Was really trying to give the clues that, hey, Dazan's already done this tower. You don't need to do it. They wanted to, they held off. They restrained themselves from initiating combat. I can tell that it's just really, really pushing the party's buttons, though. I think they all are ready to put an end to this really arrogant wizard of Thay. And but they held off. They entered into the remaining tower, and this is where I was really able to describe the fact that much of this tower has already been completed. They entered in and saw evidence of struggle, blood splattered on the walls. They saw a room full of dead oozes and a little replica goalpost still crackling with electrical energy, as this is basically a practice arena for the High Evoker, who was really into the sport of chain lightning. They crossed over this area and entered into the top floor. Beautiful sort of trophy room, all sorts of beautiful lights, and it's still like more signs of struggle, more blood kind of splattered, and some burn marks in the floor, as Dazan and company would have had to fight these two living Bigsby's hands, which do disappear and like scorch the ground. And they found the trophy case at the very end, which had been smashed open, and obviously a giant one missing, as evidenced by the fact that, well, the trophies are kind of arranged, right? And there's a big spot in the middle where one should be, it looks like. You can tell from the discoloration on the fabric where this trophy would sit. And so I think that's kind of when they realized, hey, we're going to really have to fight Dazan for this thing. Dazan's got the other piece. So I think now they know they have two pieces remaining. One is in the hands of Dazan. The other is in the hands of Scriven Scry, who has the spell book belonging to High Diviner Apius. So that is where we left off. The party kind of realizing their situation, and we reached the end of the session, basically, and people were tired and had stuff in the morning, so that's kind of where we ended it. It's not a very climactic ending, but, not every session has to be ending on a cliffhanger. So that's kind of where we pick up today. So my to-dos is just to review a bunch of stuff that I've already got prepped, pretty much. I need to review the encounter with Dazan, the encounter with Scriven Scry, maybe a first encounter with Iriel Arthas. That all depends. I'm still on the fence if I want to have that encounter happen or not, because I'm pretty sure, unless the party rests first, I think an encounter with Iriel Arthas immediately after Scriven Scry and Dazan could be really terrible. So I'm probably going to play that by ear, but I at least need to make sure I know basically what the Demi-Lich is going to do in the first couple rounds. Because the idea, I think, is going to be that he retreats into his tower after an encounter. And then I need to review the first floor of the tower itself to make sure that I know where things are and anything that I want to add or subtract from there as well. So let's just go ahead and do that. So the first thing I want to make sure I have is the encounter with Dazan, which is, where is it? It is the obelisk. map. This should be ready to go. I don't think I need to do anything here. I think these pillars being as they are is fine. I know because I've had the stats that I want to use for design for some time. So I do have that ready to go here, which is all the way down here. I've got the Design Simulacrum. It's going to cast Slow, Fireball, and Confusion. The real Design, in addition to casting Fireball and Shatter, which I need to probably link because I think what I want to do, yeah, let's do this. I also gave the real Design an additional spell, Mental Prison, just to give him some more oomph, because I think in the book he's not meant to be an adversary of the party, and he's also way lower level than the party is currently. So I want to make sure that I have these spells linked that I'm less familiar with. And that's really easy to do in Notion. All I got to do is copy the link, hover over, highlight it, and Control V, and there we go. So Shatter is an AoE for 10 feet, con save, 3d8 thunder damage. Okay, and Dazan's spell DC. We need to know that too. Let's look that up really quick. I think I can probably do that in D&D Beyond. Yeah, if you look at the stats of the spellbook for Dazan, otherwise, he doesn't really have anything really interesting. Like his 5th level spell is animate objects, and really, look, there's no objects to animate here. He's gonna animate some pillars. You know, I don't think that's within the limitations of the spell. I guess it maybe could, but it's still. I needed to give him some oomph. It's not just Fireball. So his spell save DC is 13 plus 5 to hit with spell attacks. So let's put that in our notes. Spell save DC 13 plus 5 spell attack. And the Simulacrum should be the same. Let's Krintas. I wonder why this took me here. I need to find the white bodyguard. I just want to. I'm wondering if it is the same stats as just a regular white. It might actually be programmed in here. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. I already have that up here. But I think I want to have it on. You know what? We'll do it here just in case. Let's have this up as well. And yeah, I think this fight should be fairly straightforward. It's just going to be a battle to the death. We'll have Dazan do the villain monologue thing where, you know, he's a super arrogant NPC anyways. He's going to tell them why he's here, what he's trying to do, what he thinks the Simulacrum can do, and kind of what happened to Esther. He sent Esther up to the top of the spire because he correctly reasoned out that this obelisk is probably, it's a very prized possession, obviously. Very powerful magic, chronomancy magic. And if there is something that could power it, it probably belongs to whoever ruled Ithrin, which is Iriel Arthas. And it's probably not just kept out in the open. It's probably somewhere within his deepest chambers, you know, somewhere in his deepest recesses, you know. So he sent Esther up to the top using some sort of fly spell or something similar. And what happened was she was sent to the top. Coincidentally, Design had no idea what was going to happen, but coincidentally, that was the night that Auriel showed up, passed through the force field, and once she did, it was deactivated for a moment. Esther fell through and is now probably lying unconscious somewhere within Iriel Arthas Tower, and that is where Esther currently lies. So this encounter should be fairly straightforward. Dazan's gonna reveal a bunch of stuff during this. The next fight, and he'll also give up his piece of the puzzle, obviously, because he's going to have it, maybe written down in his spellbook somewhere. Corinthos will fight to the death. Dazan's simulacrum is going to try to flee once real Dazan is taken out of the picture. The other fight is in... I need to put this further down, I think. I want to have the Necropolis global map be the first layer, the first page in this whole section. So it's easier to find. So the Arboretum, I think I've already gone through and deleted some of the old tokens. I have the new party here. And where... there is Scriven Scry. Maybe I can grab... I had another token somewhere. This would really be useful for this. I think I found it really cool. Yeah, I just found out a couple of weeks ago that you can use animated GIFs or GIFs as tokens in Roll20. And isn't this neat? This is like a little selector. I'm going to bring this over because it's super cool. And on this gigantic Arboretum map, it might make it easier to find where my dude is. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, there we go. That was very obvious where he is. Let me maybe put this on the GM layer though, because I don't want players to immediately go onto the map and it's like, oh, what's this radar that shows me exactly where you want me to look? The Arcanoloth Scriven Scry. His kit's fairly straightforward, and the party knows what his kit is super dangerous. He's a high-level caster that does really cool stuff. He's got Mind Blank. Well, Mind Blank is his own protection, but Finger of Death, Chain Lightning, Hold Monster. These are the things that he's going to use. And I need to remember this time, because I forgot to last time, that he can teleport as an action. He's not going to be using his claws. These are weak sauce. He's going to be using his really strong stuff, his Finger of Death, his Chain Lightning, Banishment. And then once all that runs out, fireballs and stuff, counter spells. Probably these weaker spells don't really matter. Phantasmal Force, maybe. Suggestion, maybe. But the big stuff, the big damage, maybe in the beginning, he's not going to be coming out guns blazing. Maybe in the beginning, it's going to be more diplomatic. I'm going to give the party that option. Maybe if they want to, they can give up, I always forget his name, Kingsport, in exchange for the spellbook. We'll see. But I think this fight is also going to be fairly straightforward. The tree in the middle is dead. There's no more weird shit happening in the Arboretum. It's just a fight with the Arcanoloth, and a fight or an encounter or a negotiation. We'll see. Next. And I have that here linked as well. You know what? Let's while I'm thinking about it, let me add links to these other spells too, just because I know there might be some specifics that come up. And I also want to get his spell save DC too. Hold Monster. Got Fireball. We know what Fireball does. Let's link Banishment. And I remember Finger of Death. This spell is nasty. This is the spell that can... I got to be careful how I use this, because this can, with no save, just wipe out a character. Like, no death saves is just done. If this happens to kill a character, that character is just done for. So I got to be very careful, because I'm not trying to do that to a party member. I also... Like, there's some stuff that I want to do with death saves if that happens. If and when that happens, I'm kind of hoping it does, because it's... I think that needs to be a threat, at least. Oh, what happened here? There we go. But I want to have a player... I've had this idea for a while. I think I definitely stole this probably from Reddit. This idea to have someone roll a death save And then if it's a success, if it's success or failure, next we'll do. If it's a success, we'll say something like, describe to me a positive a memory from your character's life that's keeping them going and having them hold on to life. And if it's a fail, one memorable thing from your life that is probably flashing before your character's eyes as they slip closer to death. Something I want to put some weight on it, and I think that'll be fun. I'm also going to roll. I also kind of want to roll these privately, because that could add to the tension, and it's metagame knowledge that the other characters don't know. So I think, where was I? The fight with Scriven Scry. I got to remember to action teleport. Oh yeah, I wanted to look up his spell save DC. Spell save DC. DC 15. Okay. Good. Does he have... I don't know that he has... No, he does have spells that are... Wait a minute. No, his spell save 17. DC 17 plus 9 to hit with spells. Okay. Did I do that right? Plus 9. I got this backwards. Okay, I'm glad I found that. Spell save DC 19 to be insane. Plus 9. Just blasting the party out of nowhere. The other encounter that I want to make sure that I have correct is Irialarthus. So let me pull that up as well. I'm going to do this on D&D Beyond because I don't really like... Oh, I guess he's just a Demi-Lich. I don't really like the interface of Roll20. Now, the thing about this fight with Irialarthus is he doesn't have... Let me just double check this, but I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have lair actions until he's actually in the spire itself. And I'm not counting the area where the Mythalar is as... I think this is the way this is intended to work. Like, the area beneath the tower is not considered in the tower. So this first stage of the fight should be a little easier. And I think from a game thematic perspective, that makes more sense. And just to double check that I'm correct, because I just read this, I want to make sure. It's in area 19 is the tower. Let's see here. Oh, it's in yeah, so it's an entirely different thing here. The spire is the lair. The lair actions apply throughout the spire. The spire doesn't have Demi-Lich lair traits. Hold on a second. Oh, I got it. I was okay. I was confusing some things. So he does have lair actions. Right, I got this now. So he has lair actions inside the spire, but the spire itself doesn't have lair traits. So this top section, yes. This bottom section, no. So it doesn't have this weird, this makes sense. You don't take necrotic damage the first time you go into the tower. Monsters don't have advantage against being... This isn't considered a tomb, basically. Which is, this makes sense. But they will... Irialarthus will have lair actions when they encounter him inside the tower. So I was basically correct. So let's take a look at Demilich does. I remember this from the last few times that I've taken a look, but he has a lot of nasty stuff. I want to make sure. Probably won't. Actually, I think what I'd like to do is spend some time off stream just looking up the best way to play Demiliches, because I've never run one of these before. I want to make sure that I run these both thematically and strategically in an intelligent way. So I have some sources. I'm going to check out. It's called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. It's fantastic resource. If you don't have it or haven't checked it out, I think you can look up some of the blog. It was originally a blog. You could probably still find it online, but it's a really good book. It talks about how to run monsters as not just a pile of stats, how to run them in an intelligent way, and how to use these stats to inform your decisions on how you're going to run it. So I'll probably look up that off stream after we're done here. But I think the main point here is this Howl is pretty nasty. It probably uses Life Drain otherwise. And takes these legendary actions, the situation dependent. So I think this is going to be a fairly straightforward fight as well. The hard part about this is, yeah, he only has 80 hit points, but he's got an armor class of 20, and he's got Life Drain. Right? So anytime he's below 80 hit points and he casts Life Drain, this targets up to 3 creatures within 10 feet. And I guess this is kind of two things working against each other, right? Because Howl is within 30 feet, and players, if that happens, they're going to want to keep their distance, which then means that Life Drain's not really going to work, which is probably fine. That means the Demilich has to get closer if he wants to use this stuff. But I think the idea of why this is such a difficult fight, it's challenge 18. This is going to be kind of nuts. So I'm not intending for this to be a let's kill the party sort of a situation. If they happen to break the barrier without a rest, we're probably not going to do it, because I think that would probably TPK. If they rest and then go and do the Octad, we might have Uriel Arthur show up. It could just be a simple, I thought about this idea too, is once they try to attune to the Mythalar, maybe they all kind of get this vision in their head of this horrifying looking skull, and then it lets out this psychic shout in their head, the psychic scream. It's not going to be the Howl, because that would be insane. But maybe I'll have anybody near the Mythalar make a Constitution save, and they'll take damage and be frightened or something like that. And then they'll see Uriel Arthas fly up to the top of the tower, and it's sort of indicating. The idea being, that it indicates to the party that we need to go after Uriel Arthas. We can't just attune to this because he's not going to let us. And it might come to blows if we keep pushing it further. But back to the fight. The idea with this Life Drain, I think, is, he's only got 80 points, AC of 20. If he does take damage on his turn, he's going to use Life Drain. And that is 66 points of necrotic damage for up to 3 targets if they fail the DC 19 con save, which is not an easy save to make. And he's basically bringing himself back up to full. It's gonna be really hard to kill this guy. They gotta basically do it all in one round. So either way, if it happens to go in favor of the players and he's really not looking so hot, I do intend for him to retreat. And because he can use legendary actions, he can use flight at the end of another creature's turn, and he's trying to keep a distance anyways. So I don't think retreating will be an issue. And that is that's this. I think this session is going to be a lot of encounters. It's going to be a lot of fights, because that's kind of what's left to do. It's Dazan, it's Scriven Scry, and it's possibly Uriel Arthas. Now, there's always the possibility that the party does not go to the Mythalar. They might just read the arcane. They might perform the rite of the Arcane Octad, see the force field kind of get dispelled temporarily, deactivated temporarily, and hear the door to the support beam here, that locked door, that iron door that was in the prison district, open up and go, wait, we've got a way to get in. Let's go in. There's a door. Let's go into it. And they might just disregard the Mythalar entirely. That's a possibility as well. And then we go into the Spire of Iriel Arthas. But I do want to make sure. Let me go to the the Mythalar map. I do have Iriel Arthas here. And the players. I'm not really sure where to put Iriel Arthas. We'll put them like here. And then we can arrange these as they are. By the way, thanks to Tabletop Animated on Patreon. I'm not a member, but I just really like this map. I have seen the animated version of this, and it's really sweet. But I think I found this on Reddit. But since I'm just using it for this one encounter, this will do. This will do. But the animated version is amazing. Definitely encourage you to go check out this guy on Patreon and support that creator. So let's go back to my notes to see where I'm at. I know I need to, what was the other thing I need to do? Is just make sure I know the first floor of Iriel Arthas Tower. Oh, right. I want to review we'll do this now. I want to review the events of Karsus, because this is kind of important for the secrets. Again, I'm using the Lazy Dungeon Master outline for my D&D prep here. So probably if you're familiar with the work of Sly Flourish and the Lazy Dungeon Master, or Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master to be specific, this probably looks really familiar. I don't do everything on here because it's just not, I'm using what serves my campaign and my sessions. So I need to review the events of Karsus, because this might come up in the encounter with Dazan. Like I said, he's going to be doing some villain monologues. He's going to be talking about why he's here, what he's trying to do. And if I remember correctly, it's been a while. There was a really good video that Jordan on YouTube had put out. I think it's like JORDPHAN. He does a lot of really good Forgotten Realms lore kind of videos. And that's where I got a lot of the inspiration for what I want to do with Ithrin. When I was watching that stuff, I learned about the fall of Netheril and how all those cities fell. And I learned about Karsus' folly and, why the cities fell. Why Ithrin fell is entirely different. But that said, the story of Karsus was just way too cool to not include in this. And what happened was, if I remember correctly, the Netherese were gaining all this power from the Mythalar, from the Netherese scrolls, and basically went from being like dumb humans to, we found the blueprints to magic, and where we used to spend an entire year just learning a cantrip from the elves, now we've got the keys to the back door of magic, and we got the blueprints in the form of the Nether Scrolls. Magic exploded, and all of a sudden they could do all sorts of cool stuff. And they were mining Shardolin, and they were searching for more Mythalar. They were using really high-powered magic to cut off the top of a mountain, turn it upside down with reverse gravity, and then use magic to make it fly. Magic of the Mythalars to make it fly. And if I remember correctly, there was something like 66 Netherese flying cities when it was all said and done. And I think they still had society on the ground. It was just like, these flying cities are for rich people, rich magic users. And specifically Ithrin, this was a place where you would go to the House of the Arcane and figure out which school of magic was going to be your life's work. And then you'd go off to one of these magical towers. And, they would fly around in this city using the arcane telescope and using the Mythalar to try to find artifacts from the lost city of Astoria. And that was kind of that's why Ithrin fell. They found this spindle in the north and brought it into Iriel Arthas Tower to study it. Somebody accidentally triggered it, and that acted like a magical EMP. There was an explosion, and magic was deactivated temporarily, and that's how Ythrun fell. But that happened 4 years before the fall of Netheril and how all these other cities fell. What happened with Karsus? I think what was going on was because the Netherese were tapping into all this magic and using all this magic from the Weave, they were basically taking a food source away from the Faerun. There are these Underdark creatures that live on magic and kind of consume magic as a food source. And so once they started doing that, that's not without repercussion. This is kind of a parable for today, right? It's like rich people consuming, and hoarding more than they really need, pushing the limits of what is possible because they're rich and they can afford it at the expense of the lower class. That's what the Netherese were doing. They were exploiting magic to see just how much they could do. They built flying cities and were searching for more cool stuff at the expense of another living, a whole colony of entity in the form of the Faerun, these magical Underdark creatures. And they began to fight back against the Netherese. I think, if I remember correctly, Karsus was studying magic and wanted to. I don't think his desires were purely greedy. I don't think he wanted to steal the power of Mistral just to do it. I think his idea was to temporarily steal the powers of Mistral to put some things in the favor of humans and in the favor of the Netherese. So he was spending all this time to cast, I think it was a 10th level spell. It was beyond what was currently possible, because before all this happened, there was not a cap on magic. It went all the way up to like 10th and 11th level. And he spent a year casting this spell called Karsus Avatar, which would have temporarily taken the power of Mistral. And because she was so built into the Weave itself, she sacrificed herself in order to save magic, cutting off the Weave from everybody. And that cut off that basically like turned off all the Mythallar and all magic in the Netherese. And that's why the other cities fell. She was reincarnated as Mystra and was able to continue. People were able to, continue with magic after a time. It was from what I understand, it was a pretty long period, but during that time, obviously, like a lot of bad shit happened. All these Netherese cities fell, and on her reincarnation, that's when the cap on magic happened, and she said, no more going past that. We're done. 9th level is it. We need to make sure that like greedy people don't get a hold of some really powerful magic anymore. So that's it. We're cutting off magic after a certain point. And here comes Dazan, researching all this stuff, finding out about Karsus, finding out that he was close to doing it, finding out that, hey, it's possible. The only thing that's stopping the arcanely inclined is because Mother Mistral says no. Or now Mistra. I always get those backwards. So he's looking at this like, if I'm somebody that is interested in knowledge, is interested in magic, and wants to see how far it can go, because why not? I'm somebody that's driven by possibility, and if I know that there is something beyond a doorway, I don't want to have somebody tell me I can't do it, or I'm not allowed into the doorway. If I know it's possible, if I know it exists, I want to explore it. So that's his drive. He's got beef with that idea that just because a being that has a lot of magic, known as a god, says no, that he can't do it. So he wants to use the obelisk to go back before all this went down and correct the mistakes and actually take that power for himself. Because why, if you were somebody that was driven by curiosity and wanted to see the boundaries of magic, why wouldn't you want to do that? That's his whole mentality. So that's Dazan. Really bad idea though. Can you imagine that in like real life if you were somebody that said, well, why wouldn't I want to amass $100 trillion? If I could, who's to say that I shouldn't? Who's to say that I shouldn't own every last penny if I possibly can? Just really greedy and bad mentality all around. Not to mention the fact that Dazan's probably the last person that you want to have with all that power. He's not a good guy. So he definitely has to be stopped. Let me review the Spire. This is the last little bit that I probably have to do. I also have, as far as like secrets go, and then we'll review the characters and call it a day. I think I already mentioned this. Dazan sent Esther to retrieve whatever can activate the obelisk. He has no idea what. Guesses it's somewhere within Iriel Arthas chambers. Dazan still has no idea what the condition of Esther is. By the way, in case you're wondering who Esther is, she is a schoolmate of Sarah Gritz. Sarah is one of our players. They both came to Ten Towns in the very beginning because they were from the same wizard college in Neverwinter, I believe, and sent them there to, you know, kind of investigate and see what was going on in Ten Towns. They knew that there was some arcane stuff going on. They were sent there to figure it out and to look into it. And both of them have been, it's been like the spring break that goes really wrong. They've seen way more than they've expected. A lot of death, a lot of bad stuff, and probably at the end of this have some trauma to work out. But that's who Esther is. It's kind of like a college best friend to one of our characters, one of our players. Dazan is here to fix Kars's mistakes and go back before the weave was severed by Mistral. The obelisk has powerful chronomancy magic, and when activated, can turn back time before the fall of Ithrin. It's probably something else that Dazan knows. Dazan's piece of the Octet, obviously, is this last piece, number 5. I think the party knows by now. I think at least they probably separately have an inkling that Ithrin's fall was before the severing of the weave, before the rest of the Netherese cities fell. I just don't know that they know why yet. Our character, our Warforged fighter, Jack Forrest, had a vision of when Ithrin fell and knew that it was some explosion that didn't destroy buildings but deactivated magic. So he's probably the closest one to knowing what really went wrong. Iriel Arthas is still attuned to the Mythalar and will not allow others to attune to it. And lastly, for Secrets today is what the Mythalar can do. I'm anticipating if the players get through that encounter, or maybe even if they like get close enough to the Mythalar to identify it, they're going to know what it does. So lastly, I want to, well, second to last, I want to review the characters too, is to take a look at the Spire. And actually, let's pull up the actual map. That's better. It's here somewhere, I promise. Here it is. And there's some stuff that I want to make sure that mainly these peripheral rooms, I want to know what's in them and what I plan to do with them. I know that I want to have at least one of these rooms be filled with broken automatons, basically. We're not calling them Warforged. I got to come up with a clever name because I alluded to the fact that Jack Forrest's kind was used in Ithrin for mining Chardalyn. So I got to come up with a clever name, not Warforged. I know that this is the ballroom. You're gonna hear some music. I think off stream I'm gonna look for some good, elegant ballroom music, some you know, free to use music or something like that. Maybe some classical music. Let's review these rooms. I don't think I need to. I'm not gonna write down on the map. I'm just gonna remember basically what's in here. Main entrance. B is the ballroom. Obviously, it has a bunch of illusions of people in elegant gowns and suits and attire and stuff, kind of, you know, in this perpetual state of bliss and performing this dance. If the party sees through the illusion or dispel it in some way, the dilapidated state of the ballroom shows itself, and there are 3 brains in a jar that are going to fight. C, council chambers. Nothing really in here. It's day-to-day stuff. Ruined parchment scrolls. There's an unfinished letter that details the acquisition of an artifact dating to... Okay, so this is alluding to the spindle. And the fact that it's in the stasis chamber. Gotta remember that. I'll put that down here. 19C. Letter referencing the discovery of an Astorian artifact. Move to the status chamber, the stasis chamber. Okay. D is guard passage, obviously, because there is this mage in here to guard. Liquefaction chamber. Oh, this is where they meet. What's her name? Veneranda. That's right. They meet the horror, the helmed horror, and Veneranda wants to fix. She wants to fix Ithrin, and says they need Iriel Arthur's staff of power in his study in order to do it. She does not want to accompany them on account of the likely danger, and she can do the brain transfer ritual if need be. I think G is the bar area, right? Oh, it's a den. Where's the bar? I know there's a bar here. It's in H. This is the members bar. This is the den. Okay. And also, in F is staff storage. These are just really cool staves. They're not magical. They're just really decorated and cool. J, Chamber of Sorcery. Where is J? Oh, it's the stuff over here, right? This is the Force Bridge. It's an invisible bridge that they have to cross. There's a window on the other side, which is the Chamber of Sorcery, where they meet another NPC called Everlast. That's probably not going to happen this session, so I think that's probably good. We've got enough going here. So lastly, in the last 10 minutes or so, yeah, this is basically the scenes. In the last 10 minutes or so, let's do a quick review of the characters. So we have Gwendrel, who is our tiefling cleric, is a Twilight cleric to Saloon, and recently, finally, is safe from the threat of the arcane blight. No longer under the threat of turning into an Othic. Thankfully, man, that was stressful. Sarah Gritz, female human wizard, is the Wizard of the Scribes, and has been poked multiple times by Dazan. Had buttons pushed about what he knows about Esther, and is really motivated about finding out what happened to her, and probably is in a good mood to see him ended. Mars's Romazi is our female tiefling, a barbarian. She is the path of the ancestors. I forget what the subclass is called. But she is now a follower of Saloon. She decided to devote her fighting to be somebody of a barbarian fighter, a barbarian, not specifically a fighter, a barbarian for Saloon, and fight in Saloon's name. It was the thing that saved Gwendrel and allowed him to roll with enough favor to save from the arcane blight. I did talk to the player out of the game and said, it might be a little bit off. We're kind of close, but the next time that the party levels up, if you're interested, would you like to multi-class into Paladin and be a Paladin of Saloon? That's an option, and she seemed very interested in it. She said, "Oh, I never multi-class before." Sure, that sounds awesome. So I think that's going to be her next direction because of in-game choices. It's so exciting. And lastly is Jack Forrest. He is the Echo Knight fighter and Warforged. I'm not really sure where he stands as far as Ithrin, but he's been a really good asset to the Sunseekers. He's been really smart about using his Echo to kind of trade places and scout ahead, be a bit of a meat shield. So yeah, he's been a really good asset to the team. Where we are starting is basically where we left off last time. It's nothing too exciting. It's just the group weighing their options. It's the end of the day. They got to decide what to do next, if they're just going to stay here and rest for the night and then continue, or if they're going to go into the fight, into the encounter guns blazing, and maybe not guns blazing. Maybe they decide to go and do the encounter, talk to Dazan, work something out. I think if it comes to it, Dazan's going to try to get them to work with him. I don't see it going that way, but he's simply interested in getting to the obelisk activated. So whatever he can do to do that. Maybe they go and negotiate with Scriven Scry, we'll see. They might decide that they're low on resources and can't afford to fight. So, interesting stuff. We are probably finishing up the Arcane Octad tonight. I hope. I think that would be really cool and exciting. And then entering into the Spire of Iriel Arthas to hopefully spend a few sessions there, wrap it up, and we'll get this campaign. Probably, we might even hit 60 with this campaign. I'm not sure, but I think that's going to do it. We were running almost to the end of the hour, and I need to give my voice a rest and go get some dinner before the session. So thank you for tuning into the actual prep stream. I'm here every Sundays at 5 p.m. Central. I'll be on next. I decided that 5 p.m. or not 5 p.m. 9 p.m. on Fridays is going to be my other stream time, where I'm just talking about the game, giving my thoughts on different things going on, different things that I'm picking up as I'm DMing. This upcoming Friday, 9 p.m. Central, I will be giving my first impressions on the most recent 1D&D playtest, that of the Experts class group, Ranger, Bard, and Rogue, and all the things that come with that playtest. It dropped a couple days ago, and I know that a lot of other creators have already put out... okay, looks like we have a couple folks in the chat. Whatever. As I was saying, we've got... right, I've seen a couple other people already... A bunch of other creators have already kind of given their initial first impression reaction to this recent drop, but I wanted to give less of a knee-jerk reaction, because I think my default reaction to change is change bad. You know, I like 5th edition, so why are we changing it? Change bad. And I wanted to really spend some time considering it and not let myself be ruled by those emotions, and really give it some thought. Give it time to settle and digest, and then give my opinions on it. So that'll be coming next Friday at 9 p.m. Central Time. Also back here again next Sunday night, every Sunday, 5 p.m. Central, to do more D&D prep. We'll continue around with the Frostmaiden. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.